Have you ever wondered why certain knowledge, centuries-old wisdom, and ancient texts are locked away, hidden from the public eye, guarded behind the walls of the most powerful institutions in the world? What is it that the Vatican, the center of the Roman Catholic Church, knows about these texts that they're so desperate to keep out of the hands of ordinary people? Picture this: in the shadows of the Vatican's archives, thousands of manuscripts lie in sealed chambers. These aren't just any texts. These are the lost writings, the forbidden scrolls, and the secrets of the ancients, texts that challenge the very foundations of our understanding about the universe, our history, and our spirituality. What if I told you that some of these texts might hold answers to questions that have eluded humankind for millennia? For centuries, scholars, mystics, and even world leaders have whispered about these manuscripts. Their contents promise to reveal truths about human origins, the mysteries of consciousness, and spiritual paths that have been deliberately erased from mainstream history. But why? Why would an institution like the Vatican, one that holds such immense influence over billions of lives, choose to keep this knowledge locked away? In this video, we will journey deep into the heart of the Vatican's secretive vaults, uncovering the hidden truths, the ancient texts that the Church has kept hidden for centuries. We'll explore their origins, the profound implications of their teachings, and why such knowledge might be deemed too dangerous for the public to access. But this is just the beginning. To truly understand the reasons behind this suppression, we must delve into the powerful forces at play, forces that go beyond religion and into the very core of human consciousness. The Vatican's secrets aren't just about power. They are about control, knowledge, and a truth too vast for most to comprehend. But before we begin this journey into the unknown, take a moment to hit that subscribe button. You won't want to miss the revelations we're about to uncover. Now, let's step into the shadows and explore why the Vatican hides these ancient texts from the world. To truly grasp why the Vatican conceals certain ancient texts, we must journey back in time, far beyond the Renaissance, past the Roman Empire, even further into the cradle of early civilizations. This isn't merely a religious matter, it's philosophical, spiritual, and deeply human. Let's begin with the Vatican Apostolic Archive, previously known as the Vatican Secret Archive. The very word secret was mistranslated from the Latin secretum, which actually means private or personal. But make no mistake, this isn't just a miscommunication. It served as a convenient veil for over 50 miles of shelving that housed some of the most classified knowledge on Earth. Within these vast corridors lie ancient texts from pre-Christian civilizations, Babylonian, Egyptian, Gnostic, and early Jewish mysticism, including versions of the Book of Enoch, the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, the Acts of Thomas, and Hermetic manuscripts attributed to Thoth or Hermes Trismegistus. Many of these works were deliberately excluded from the Christian canon during the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD, a moment in history when the Roman Empire merged with the rising Christian faith to create a unified narrative, one that would serve both theological control and political unity. Why exclude these texts? Because they didn't support the centralized authority of the Church. They spoke of personal spiritual awakening without the need for intermediaries. They taught that the divine lives within, not outside in a distant deity. They referenced reincarnation, sacred geometry, cosmic laws, and the true multidimensional nature of the human soul. For example, the Gospel of Thomas, discovered in 1945 near Nag Hammadi in Egypt, contains sayings of Jesus that suggest salvation through inner knowledge, not through external doctrine. In one passage, Jesus says, "Split a piece of wood, and I am there. Lift the stone, and you will find me." This is not the Jesus of institutionalized religion. This is a mystic teacher pointing to the unity between all beings and the divine source. Another suppressed text is the Book of Enoch, an ancient Jewish manuscript that describes angelic beings known as the Watchers, who came to Earth and shared forbidden knowledge with humans. The implications? That advanced intelligences may have interacted with humanity in prehistory, a concept echoed in Mesopotamian tablets, Hindu Vedas, and Mayan codices. These stories contradict the linear, human-centered view of history that many institutions prefer. But suppression didn't stop with early Christianity. During the Middle Ages, the Catholic Church burned thousands of heretical texts, many of them written by mystics, alchemists, or Gnostic sages. The Inquisition wasn't just about rooting out so-called witchcraft, it was about controlling the narrative of reality itself. To allow people to read and explore these alternative spiritual teachings was to threaten the Church's monopoly on truth. Now consider this. Why is it that the Vatican owns one of the most powerful astronomical observatories in the world, the Vatican Advanced Technology Telescope, VATT, in Arizona? What is the Church seeking in the stars while simultaneously hiding ancient teachings here on Earth? The deeper you look, the more it becomes clear, the Vatican isn't just preserving history, it's curating it. And behind that curation lies the philosophical core of esotericism, the idea that there is exoteric knowledge for the masses, and esoteric truth for the few who are ready. Throughout history, secret societies and mystical orders such as the Rosicrucians, the Freemasons, and the Hermeticists were formed to protect and pass down these forbidden truths. Their teachings mirrored what was removed from public religious doctrine. The power of vibration, sacred symbols, the unity of opposites, and the mind's ability to shape reality. The question, then, is not simply what is being hidden, but why it was hidden in the first place. What would happen if the masses discovered that they don't need intermediaries to connect with the divine? That their thoughts, their will, their very consciousness has the power to shape reality? We'll explore these questions deeper in the next section. Because once you understand the core reason behind the suppression, you begin to see the world, and yourself, very differently. The Vatican's desire to hide certain ancient texts is not merely about controlling religious dogma, it's about the control of spiritual knowledge itself. The Church, in its pursuit of consolidating power over centuries, understood that knowledge could be a weapon. It could either empower the masses or bind them in ignorance. And so, in an age-old struggle between spiritual enlightenment and institutional control, certain teachings were cast aside and buried. To understand this, let's first examine what these ancient texts reveal that the Vatican fears. The suppressed manuscripts are not just theological contradictions, they embody an entirely different philosophy of existence, one that is rooted in inner awakening, personal empowerment, and the direct experience of divinity. 1. Gnostic texts and the path of inner knowledge. Among the most significant of these texts are the Gnostic scriptures. The Gospel of Thomas, the Gospel of Mary, the Gospel of Philip, and others discovered in 1945 at Nag Hammadi. The Gnostics, early Christian mystics, believed that knowledge, or gnosis, was the key to spiritual awakening. They rejected the idea of a distant, wrathful God and instead taught that the divine was within each person, waiting to be awakened. This concept is radical because it challenges the very foundation of institutional religion. The Church, for centuries, has taught that salvation comes through faith in an external God and through the mediation of priests, saints, and sacraments. But the Gnostics told a different story, one where the path to enlightenment was direct and personal. They believed that the divine spark existed within each human being, and it was only through inner knowledge and direct experience of God that one could achieve true salvation. The Gospel of Thomas famously states, "If you bring forth what is within you, what you have will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you." This is not a text that tells you to rely on an external authority. 2. The power of sacred geometry and cosmic consciousness. Now, let's turn our attention to another critical element found in these suppressed texts, the teachings of sacred geometry and cosmic consciousness. In many ancient civilizations, Egypt, Greece, India, and Mesopotamia, sacred geometry was considered the blueprint of the universe. The flower of life, the golden ratio, and the Pythagorean theorem were not just mathematical concepts, they were spiritual truths embedded in the fabric of creation. The Vatican, with its deep ties to the ancient world, is well aware of these teachings. The Renaissance, for example, was marked by a revival of sacred geometry in art and architecture. Michelangelo's Sistine Chapel ceiling is not just a religious work, it is a mystical map of the human soul's journey, depicted in sacred geometrical forms. The very structure of St. Peter's Basilica in Rome, the heart of Catholicism, was built with sacred proportions designed to invoke a divine presence. But what the Vatican doesn't readily advertise is that these sacred symbols and geometries are not just religious. They are scientific, philosophical, and spiritual in nature. They are blueprints that describe the way energy flows in the universe, how consciousness is connected to the physical realm, and how everything in existence is interconnected. Ancient texts like those of the Hermetic tradition, attributed to Hermes Trismegistus, reveal a cosmology where the universe operates on principles of vibration and resonance. In the Emerald Tablet, a key text of Hermeticism, we find the phrase, "As above, so below, as within, so without." This isn't just a spiritual saying, it's a description of the law of correspondence, one of the fundamental laws of the universe. It suggests that the macrocosm, the universe, and the microcosm, the individual, are interconnected. What happens in one realm mirrors and affects the other. To understand the hidden truths that the Vatican fears revealing, we must grasp this law of correspondence. Our inner worlds are not separate from the external world, they are reflections of each other. If we want to transform our reality, we must first transform our consciousness. This is a profoundly spiritual, and at times, overwhelming, idea. It means that the answers to our deepest questions about life, the universe, and our own existence already lie within us. 3. Reincarnation and the Circle of Life. One of the most controversial and deeply hidden teachings found in many ancient texts is the idea of reincarnation, the belief that we are not bound to a single lifetime, but that our souls continue to evolve through a series of incarnations. This idea is found in Hinduism, Buddhism, and many esoteric Christian traditions. Yet, it was deliberately left out of official Christian doctrine. In fact, the Council of Constantinople in 553 AD made a point of declaring reincarnation as heresy, deciding that such a belief would undermine the Church's power. Why? Because it would mean that spiritual evolution is not dependent on a single lifetime, nor on a single religion's teachings. It would mean that each soul has the power to transcend death, evolving through many lives, each offering the opportunity for greater wisdom and spiritual insight. The Gospel of Thomas speaks of this idea in more subtle terms. It says, "The kingdom of God is within you, and it is outside of you. When you come to know yourselves, then you will be known, and you will understand that you are children of the living Father." This is not just a one-time revelation, it speaks to an ongoing, eternal process of spiritual growth. The Church, by rejecting reincarnation, rejected the very notion that spiritual growth is infinite, not bound by the constraints of a single earthly life. Having explored the foundational ideas of Gnosticism, sacred geometry, and reincarnation, we now move deeper into the mysteries that the Vatican has kept hidden. These are not just ideas, they are keys to unlocking a broader understanding of our existence, the cosmos, and the nature of divinity itself. So, why has the Church concealed such profound wisdom from the public? The answer lies in the control of knowledge, and the potential consequences of unleashing it. 4. The role of the Vatican in shaping collective consciousness. The Vatican has long been seen as more than just a religious institution, it is a political and social powerhouse. Throughout history, it has wielded enormous influence, not only over the hearts and minds of millions of believers but also over the laws, cultures, and global dynamics of entire nations. The Vatican, as the seat of the Roman Catholic Church, controls more than just religious doctrine. It influences how people think, how they see the world, and how they perceive themselves in relation to the divine. This is where the suppression of ancient texts becomes a matter of power. The ancient manuscripts hidden in the Vatican's archives contain wisdom that could revolutionize human understanding, ideas that could shatter the foundation of the Church's carefully crafted narrative. For centuries, the Catholic Church has taught a hierarchical model of spiritual authority, where salvation and divine understanding come through intermediaries, the priesthood, the saints, the Pope, and the Bible as interpreted by Church doctrine. These ancient texts, however, point to a radically different truth, that the divine is not distant or mediated by external authorities, but is an inherent part of each individual. If the Vatican were to release these suppressed texts, it could trigger a global shift in consciousness. People would no longer rely on external structures for spiritual guidance, but would instead turn inward, seeking direct communion with the divine. This would threaten the very institutional framework that the Church has relied upon for centuries. In a world where power is often linked to access to knowledge, controlling the narrative is everything. 5. The alchemical secrets hidden in plain sight. Another layer to the Vatican's hidden knowledge lies in the alchemical texts that have long been rumored to be in their archives. Alchemy, often seen as the precursor to modern chemistry, is far more than the pursuit of turning base metals into gold. It is a spiritual and philosophical system that aims to transmute the base nature of the self into the divine. Alchemists, like Hermes Trismegistus and Paracelsus, spoke of an inner transformation, a process of spiritual purification and enlightenment. The alchemical process is described in stages, beginning with the calcination, burning away the impurities, of the soul, followed by the dissolution, breaking down the ego, and culminating in the reunion with the divine. The famous alchemical phrase, "as above, so below," encapsulates this idea. What happens in the heavens, the spiritual realm, is mirrored below on earth, in the material realm. The hidden alchemical texts within the Vatican's archives are believed to contain deep spiritual truths, teaching that the transmutation of the self is not only possible but necessary for the advancement of human consciousness. Consider the mystical process of spiritual alchemy. Just as the alchemist refines the base metals into gold, so too does the soul undergo a purification process that transforms it from ignorance to enlightenment. This inner transmutation, however, requires knowledge that the Church, historically, has kept under lock and key. 6. The cosmic battle for knowledge, the battle between light and dark. There is another, more subtle aspect to why the Vatican hides these ancient texts. In esoteric traditions, there is often a recurring theme of a battle between light and dark, not in the conventional sense of good versus evil, but in terms of knowledge and ignorance. The hidden knowledge found in these texts represents light, the illumination of truth, wisdom, and self-realization. On the other hand, the darkness represents the suppression of that knowledge, the keeping of the masses in ignorance so that they remain subjugated. This battle has been fought for centuries, not only between religious institutions but also between secret societies, mystics, and scholars who have sought to preserve and pass on this knowledge. The Vatican is one of the largest players in this ongoing struggle. By controlling the narrative, the Vatican has essentially held the keys to human evolution, not just spiritually, but psychologically and socially as well. Consider the mystery of the divine feminine. In the ancient texts, especially those found in the Gnostic Gospels, there is a profound reverence for the feminine aspect of divinity. The Gospel of Mary Magdalene speaks of a relationship with Christ that transcends the patriarchal structures of the Church, offering a more balanced and holistic view of spiritual enlightenment. However, in mainstream Christianity, the feminine face of God has been deliberately suppressed. Why? Because the feminine aspect of the divine represents intuition, creativity, and connection, qualities that would empower the individual, especially women, to transcend their current state of spiritual submission. The Vatican's withholding of these texts can, therefore, be seen as a strategic act of maintaining control, particularly over the divine narrative. By eliminating the feminine perspective and restricting access to esoteric knowledge, they ensure that the masses remain dependent on external sources of authority rather than discovering the sacred truths within themselves. 7. The emergence of a new spiritual paradigm. As we approach the modern age, the suppression of these ancient texts begins to falter. With the advent of digital technologies, ancient manuscripts are being digitized and made available to a wider audience. New discoveries are constantly being made in the world of archaeology and history, challenging old narratives and shifting paradigms. The 1945 discovery of the Nag Hammadi Library in Egypt, containing many of the Gnostic texts previously hidden for centuries, was a game-changer. Similarly, the Dead Sea Scrolls, found in 1947, offered a glimpse into early Jewish mysticism that diverged from traditional Christian teachings. These discoveries, along with other recent findings, are beginning to illuminate the darkness that has surrounded these texts for so long. As we stand at the precipice of a new spiritual awakening, the question remains, what happens when the light of truth finally breaks through the darkness? When humanity begins to see the universe not as something to be conquered but as something to be understood? What will happen when everyone realizes that the answers have been within them all along? 8. The Church and the Great Secret of Human Potential. A crucial point to address is the Church's understanding of human potential. The hidden texts contain ideas not just about the divine but also about humanity's potential for transcendence. What if the true purpose of human life is not merely to seek salvation through belief, but to awaken to our divine essence and unlock our inherent powers? These texts teach that humans are not just passive receivers of divine grace, but active co-creators with the universe. By controlling access to these teachings, the Vatican has kept the masses from realizing their true potential. Imagine a world where everyone understood that they have the ability to transform their lives, influence their environments, and even impact the fabric of reality itself through spiritual and mental discipline. Such knowledge would dismantle the systems of control that have been built over centuries. 9. The Vatican's relationship with secret societies. Another fascinating aspect of this subject is the Vatican's complex relationship with secret societies. Throughout history, groups like the Freemasons, the Rosicrucians, and others have guarded these ancient teachings, passing them down through initiatory rites. These societies have often been viewed as antagonistic to the Church, yet in many cases, members of the Vatican and the Church hierarchy have been linked to these organizations. This duality, publicly denouncing esoteric knowledge while privately protecting and even nurturing it, speaks volumes about the deeper motivations of the Vatican. The idea is to control who gets access to the sacred knowledge. Initiates in secret societies were often granted access to these truths, but only once they proved they were worthy. By keeping the knowledge in the hands of a select few, the Vatican and other power structures could ensure that spiritual enlightenment remained out of the reach of the masses. 10. The Church's growing influence in modern times. In modern times, the Vatican's influence on global matters, particularly in terms of spirituality, politics, and social ethics, remains deeply relevant. The Church's continued control over ancient texts, combined with its vast wealth and reach, continues to shape societal norms. However, as more of these texts leak into public knowledge and new interpretations emerge, the Vatican's grip on this knowledge is beginning to weaken. This leads us to the emerging spiritual renaissance in the modern world, a movement away from dogmatic religious practices and toward a more individualistic, mystical approach to spirituality. The rise of alternative spirituality, mysticism, and New Age philosophies is evidence of a growing collective yearning for the truths the Vatican has long withheld. This spiritual shift, though unorganized and varied in its approach, represents a massive potential for the individual to rediscover their connection to the divine and understand their own role in the grand cosmic order. Now that we've uncovered the hidden truths, the philosophical underpinnings, and the power dynamics at play in the Vatican's secrecy, let's turn our attention to what this all means for you. How can you, as an individual, begin to tap into these ancient teachings and apply them to your life? After all, the purpose of this knowledge is not to remain locked away but to empower you in your spiritual journey. In a world increasingly defined by uncertainty, stress, and external influences, understanding the esoteric truths that have been hidden from us offers an opportunity for liberation, a chance to awaken to our true nature and realize our infinite potential. 1. Unlocking the inner divine, the path of Gnosis. One of the core teachings of the Gnostic texts is that the divine is not found outside of you, it is already within. The Gospel of Thomas reminds us that, if you bring forth what is within you, what you have will save you. So, the first step on your journey is to look inward. In the hustle of daily life, we often forget that the answers to our deepest questions, the solutions to our personal struggles, and the connections we seek with the divine are all found within our own consciousness. To begin this process of inner awakening, set aside time daily for meditation or silent reflection. Focus on your breath and listen deeply to the thoughts that arise, without judgment. As you cultivate inner stillness, you will start to notice that the answers you seek are not found in the outer world, but within your own thoughts, intuition, and emotions. Practice, Start with just 5 minutes a day of silent contemplation. Ask yourself a powerful question: what is my true purpose? Sit with the question and listen to what arises from within. Over time, this practice will begin to strengthen your connection to your inner divinity. 2. Sacred geometry, seeing the divine in the world around you. The teachings of sacred geometry show us that the divine is present not only in our minds and spirits, but also in the very structure of reality itself. The universe is an intricate web of patterns and harmonies, with mathematical precision that reflects a higher order. To apply this wisdom, start paying attention to the patterns that occur in your environment. Whether it's the symmetry in nature, the way a tree branch splits into smaller branches, or the way the sun rises and sets each day, these are all expressions of sacred geometry. Train yourself to see the interconnectedness of all things. Recognize the divine patterns that exist in your life, and you will begin to feel a deeper sense of harmony with the universe. Practice. Observe the world around you for 1 week, and keep a journal of any patterns or recurring symbols you encounter. Ask yourself, what is the universe trying to teach me? This exercise will help you attune to the natural order that surrounds you and help you realize your connection to the cosmos. 3. Reincarnation and spiritual evolution, understanding the eternal journey. The concept of reincarnation, though often dismissed by mainstream religion, offers a profound reframing of life and death. Instead of seeing death as the end, you can see it as part of an eternal cycle of spiritual growth. Every life you live is an opportunity to learn, evolve, and move closer to the divine essence within you. Understanding reincarnation allows us to see every challenge, hardship, and moment of suffering not as random or pointless, but as part of a greater spiritual journey. You are here to learn, to grow, and to awaken more fully to your true nature. This shift in perspective can help you approach life with a sense of compassion, knowing that we are all on the same path of evolution. Practice. Reflect on a difficult experience from your life and ask yourself, what was the lesson I needed to learn? By understanding your challenges through the lens of reincarnation, you begin to see them as stepping stones on your journey of spiritual growth. This perspective helps you view obstacles as opportunities for enlightenment, rather than burdens to carry. 4. The alchemical process, transmuting the self. The practice of spiritual alchemy teaches us that, just as alchemists turn base metals into gold, we have the power to transmute our own inner nature, turning our base desires, fears, and limitations into wisdom, love, and spiritual power. This process of inner transformation is a key to unlocking your full potential. To engage in this process, start by identifying areas of your life where you feel stuck, or where you are still attached to lower vibrations, such as fear, anger, or envy. Begin the process of transmutation by consciously choosing to shift these negative emotions into higher states of being. When fear arises, transform it into courage. When anger surfaces, transmute it into compassion. Practice. Each time you face a challenging emotion or experience, pause and reflect, how can I transmute this experience into growth? The more you practice this inner alchemy, the more you will align with the divine potential that lies dormant within you. 5. Becoming the creator of your own reality. The ancient texts tell us that we are co-creators with the universe. This means that our thoughts, beliefs, and actions shape the reality around us. The law of correspondence, as above, so below, as within, so without, shows us that the inner world of our mind is intimately connected to the outer world we experience. To manifest the life you desire, it is crucial to shift your mindset from one of limitation to one of possibility. Begin by focusing on positive, empowering thoughts. Visualize the life you want to create, and trust that the universe will support you in bringing it into existence. Practice. Take time each day to visualize your ideal life. See yourself in a state of joy, abundance, and peace. Feel the emotions of having already achieved your desires. As you do this, your energy will begin to align with your desires, and you will start to attract the opportunities and experiences that reflect that energy. The knowledge hidden by the Vatican and other powerful institutions was never meant to remain secret forever. As the world shifts toward a more awakened consciousness, these ancient teachings are coming to light. Gnosis, sacred geometry, reincarnation, alchemy, and the ability to create our own reality are all part of the divine truth that has been hidden from the public for centuries. But now, the time has come to reclaim this knowledge. As you begin to explore these teachings and apply them in your life, you will not only transform your spiritual journey but also unlock a deeper understanding of who you truly are. You are not a passive observer in this universe. You are a divine creator, here to shape your reality and awaken to your full potential. So, what will you do with this knowledge? Will you let it remain hidden, or will you embrace your divine power and begin your journey of self-realization? The choice, as always, is yours.